Guys, we're heading across the big pond to go race our bikes for 20 days in Belgium. Here's the WOW airline worker seeing us rolling in with 9 bikes boxes, thrilled about having to load them all, as they're pretty darn heavy. The team, this has been a big goal for the team throughout the year. It's something we've had our eyes on for a really long time, and something that a lot of our sponsors have been pushing for us to go to Europe and get that additional experience, as it's quite a bit different than racing in the US. So we're all super excited that it actually, the plan was in place and we were actually heading over there to race and do a little sightseeing. After 2 long flights, we've made it to Brussels Airport. We're in the train station waiting to catch our couple trains to where we were staying for the first 2 weeks, which was in Vorselaar, and we were lucky enough to be able to stay at the Aqua Blue team house there in Vorselaar, as they were all out at a race. So great accommodations and just the perfect way to start off the trip. No later than 2 days in, we were headed to our first race, 120-kilometer kermesse in Zelzat. And we were all pretty nervous, I think. Everyone's read the horror stories of what it's like to race in Belgium. Here's a quick profile of the course, dead flat. Don't let the elevation chart fool you. The max elevation was 6 meters and the lowest was 0, so dead flat course. Started off, like I said, we were all a little nervous just from reading blogs and hearing about people's experiences in Belgium and how tough it is and how it kind of whittles racers out of the scene. So we were all excited to kind of get the first one under our belts and see what it was like. Scott, my teammates Scott and Evan have both been here a couple of times, so we were kind of just taking guidance from them and hearing from their stories what it was like. But right off the gun, I basically bum rushed to get to the front, because the back part of the course was really narrow, as almost every course here is like. There's road furniture everywhere. You're kind of just racing on what seems like a golf cart path most of the time. And it was pretty windy, so I knew there would be a big crosswind. We all were kind of expecting to spend some time in the gutter on the backstretch, but made it to the front, no problem, and right away you can see this group off the front. There goes one guy trying to bridge across, and this was kind of just the story of the day. People were just going ballistic. Every chance they could get, someone was off the front. It was almost hard to tell what was going on in the race, because the lead car was far enough out front where you're never sure if there was a break or if it was all together, or what you just caught was a chase group and not the actual breakaway. So you kind of had to be on alert at all times. And this was on a Thursday, and it was race at, I think it was 5 o'clock, so we didn't know what to expect, but there was well over 100 guys at this race. Going over they filled in a drain with a carpet. I think there was like cardboard or something under the carpet, and it was a really tight turn, but ended up not being sketchy. Everyone in the race was taking it with caution, and it really wasn't that dangerous after a couple runs over it at speed. But this is the part I was telling you about with the crosswinds. Everyone, you're kind of just stuck to the right of the road. I'm following Scott. I think Joel was off the front at this point, following some moves. So the guys raced really well. Everyone was, I think, really excited to be there. So we kind of went a little ballistic. In the first 30 minutes, we were in like every move, and we had 9 guys, so we had like 9% of the field just on our team alone. So it's easy to have guys cover moves for a while. Here goes Scott. I kind of follow him just a little and look back and see that we have a gap, so I kind of speed up to catch back onto his wheel, and it definitely took a lot of power. This was the crosswind section. You can see we're flying like 33 miles an hour, so it took a lot of power to kind of sit out here, and the laps were 6K long, so I think we were averaging about 12-minute laps-ish, somewhere around there. So, which was nice, because we're used to racing crits where, you know, Some of the courses you're only out there for, it takes a minute to go around the entire course once, but here it was nice to kind of have longer courses, and from the rest of the races, this is how most of them were like, you know, 6 to 8 Ks long. So this was a good course and a good one to have as our first race. Not a lot going on, some road furniture, a couple curbs, but nothing too crazy, no cobbles, a lot of fast sweeping corners aside from that one tight one with the carpet over the gutters. So, but Scott and I, we sat out there for like 2 minutes and we both just blew up. The course is so fast, there's no way. You had to be so strong if you wanted to try to, you know, ride around at 30 miles an hour with 2 guys for 120K, which almost is, you know, 2 hours and 45 minutes worth of racing, 2.5 hours. So it's a long time. And what's really neat about these races is they have like all these carnivals set up. You can see all these tents on the left-hand side. There's just old dudes in there crushing beer, because in Belgium, beer is like cheaper than water at most of the places we went to. And they set up like carnivals. There's bumper cars and all these French fry stands. It's definitely a completely different environment than what it's like racing in the U.S. But you can see kind of groups are coming and going non-stop. And this part, if you were middle of the pack to the back, you were just suffering like a dog sitting at the back with the crosswinds. But it wasn't super long section of crosswind. It was maybe like a minute or a minute and a half, and then it kind of twisted and you had a little bit of a headwind, and then it would go back to a minute or two of crosswind. Here's the only crash of the day, and of course 4 of us got involved. Spencer, Dennis, Evan, and I were all behind the one guy that dumped it. There was a ton of gravel in that corner, so I'm surprised there was only 1 crash. No one was really risking it. Here goes Evan following a move off the front, attacking up the gutter. But the racing here was a ton of fun. I mean, guys are just so aggressive. It is just non-stop attacking and covering moves and hopping on stuff and getting in your own attack. There'd be times you thought you were in the field and you'd look back and there'd be like 6 of you and you're kind of off the front just from some racing going on behind. But it was really hot too. Most of us were a little jet lagged, but racing later in the afternoon really helped us. Tried to do some morning spins to shake the legs out and get a little used to it, but the major factor of the day was definitely the heat. We had nobody to feed us, and with it being a 2.5 hour race, I think we all started with maybe 3 bottles and kind of threw one to our team car that was parked on the side. But it just wasn't enough. It was just miserably hot. We were all covered in salt by the end. It was definitely a confidence booster after that first lap or two when everyone was at the front. It was like, okay, kind of settled down, getting our own little rhythms, realize that like we can race these and have a chance to go for the win. It wasn't just the stories we were hearing where you're just kind of stuck single file suffering and you kind of just ride around until you get dropped. And it was nice to actually be racing these races. And the category of racing we were doing was a 1.12B, I believe. There I was, I actually got a feed there. We had some guys that kind of got popped off the back. So we had some people to feed us, which was nice. But anyways, yeah, it was a 1.12B race. So, which meant it was open to elite riders and U23 only. So there were no pros, so it was definitely a race of our caliber and something we were used to. So it made it a lot of fun. We could have done a couple of the pro kermesses, but they were just a lot longer and kind of we didn't have any of them near our house, too close to where we were staying and didn't want to travel a lot. But here's Evan and I. The race is pretty much over for us. There's a bunch of groups up the front. It turned into one big group. We had Dennis and Scott in it. I think Scott ended up finishing 20th. So the top 3 things I took away from this race is competitive. Like, we were competitive. We just had to... The second thing, we just had to ride smarter and time our attacks and not just blow all of our bullets in the first 30 minutes like we kind of did in this race, and realize that even when the brake's off the front, the race is never over. This was a great example of that. Chase groups bridged up to the brake and ended up making it to the line. So it's a great experience, and I'm looking forward to the next couple of races for us.